see the waiting room filling in now, so we'll give it a couple moments for our audience to join us. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Benjamin Lindsay. I'm managing editor here at Backstage, and so thrilled to be welcoming you to our first ever Backstage Fest. This is our second day. We're wrapping it up with quite the special panel. Let's Get Sickening, How to Get Cast on Drag Race. We have such a great lineup here. Earlier today, you might have seen our masterclass with Barry Jenkins. We had crew panels with The Handmaid's Tale and Bridgerton, as well as a panel on intimacy coordination. We still have a full day tomorrow of panels coming up for you. So head over to backstage.com/magazine for that full schedule, for RSVP and registration links, and we'll get you started there. For a quick intro on who's joining us today, obviously, I'm such a huge fan of Drag Race. I know you are too. We have producer and judge Michelle Visage joining us, producer Mandy Salansang, casting director Goloka Bolte, and season 13 contestant Olivia Lux. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course, of course. Now, congratulations on season 13. I know it was quite the feat just to get it off the ground, considering the last year that we were in. You had a special episode dedicated to kind of the efforts that went into the COVID-19 production, all the safety measures and whatnot. You were one of the first series to do so. For Mandy or Michelle, whoever wants to take it, I'd love just to hear what that conversation was like, what that dialogue was like behind the scenes. Why was it so important to get this up and running despite the times that we were living in?
I think that Mandy could speak more behind the scenes, but I can tell you as talent, as well as producer, I felt it was so important because this show means so much to so many people who are already living in certain marginalized conditions, and then having the huge, presence of the pandemic to then, make them feel more alone. And I think a lot of people dealt with anxiety and dealt with depression that crept up through this pandemic, that it was even more important to have the show that brings them light and love and acceptance and self-love and self-care be on the television, so they know that we are going to get through this. And absolutely, we have. We've done it the right way. I will say that our production company has been called eccentric for many, many reasons and many, many years, and we do not care. But World of Wonder has done such an incredible job with the medical personnel and all the people that they've included to get this show done, to make sure we're tested 3 times a week. We have plexiglass between us. Nobody's allowed on the set, not only without sterilization, but masks and shields, and everything was done properly. The girls were treated right. Everything was done to protocol, above and beyond, which is why we were able to deliver it in such a tight, scary time. I don't know what the conversation was behind, but I'm sure it had something to do with the fact, and Mandy can speak on this, the fact that we needed to get this on the air for the people like me who need to have this life in their lives.
Absolutely. And of course, there was so very much unknown going into it, and so many things that with the experts that we consulted with the incredibly talented people at World of Wonder, who were getting into the early research, just trying to figure out how to go into production safely with everybody's safe, safety and wellness being top priority. But also, never would we have been able to do any of this without the resourcefulness and resilience of the queens themselves, who have always, drag queens are just known for their resilience and resourcefulness again, but under the conditions with which they had to prepare to be here, to compete on the level that they did compete under just incredible, unfounded, unprecedented circumstances. It's not, without them, without their commitment and their resourcefulness, it never could have happened. So it was absolutely an enormous undertaking for production, for cast, for medical personnel, for everyone on set. And I'm very proud to have been a part of it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the perfect segue to Olivia. I mean, you had such an incredible journey this season. Obviously, it did happen under these circumstances of a pandemic, but the COVID-19 of it all aside, what surprised you most in hindsight about your experience in the workroom, just walking in there for the first time, having this dream kind of realized for the first time. In hindsight, what surprised you most? What are you taking away from it?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is I'm really proud of just everything that I've done and all the people I got to meet, like Michelle and Mandy and all these amazing people that made our experience so awesome. I mean, coming at it from another point of view, from the Queen side, it's like you get this call and I'm like starting to cry because I'm excited that I get to quit my real job and like pursue my art and express myself full time during a time where it's really hard to do that. We were performing in our living room. So it was such a really amazing time to be a creative and to be around fellow collaborators. And I think the most surprising thing for myself was just my entire experience and journey. It was really something that I didn't think was even possible. When we got the call, I didn't know how we were going to do it, and we did it. And I'm just really proud of myself and everyone that I came into contact with safely. Yes.
Safe contact, that's the name of the game, of course. To bounce back to Olivia real quick, obviously you are a performer by trade, but I imagine the lights, camera, and action of being on a reality TV competitive set, that's all new. Can you speak at all to just what that kind of baptism by fire was like? What was the learning curve to actually being a part of this experience as a competitor?
You know, as a competitor, I came in and I said, you know what? I think I'm just gonna focus on myself. I'm gonna mind my own business and focus on myself and see where that gets me. And it got me so far because coming into it, you know, it's a really big franchise. You are, you know, it's something that for me is really close to my heart. And I know a lot of these other queens on the show. And I just wanted to really make sure that I knew that every single person walking through the workroom doors has their own journey. Therefore, you can't really compare. And art is subjective. So you can go there, you can learn from the panel of judges and kind of just like express yourself and in that, you know, have your trials and tribulations and learn and grow. And it got me to top 5. So I'm just, yeah, it was a really cool experience.
Absolutely. I mean, congratulations again on your journey on this season. Goloka, I want to go to you. You were speaking before we were streaming live. I didn't realize that as casting director, you wouldn't have had that face-to-face meet cute with Olivia at this point. It's so funny that you are so involved in the casting process, but you are seeing the tapes, you're seeing the submissions and kind of passing them along. Could you reveal for us just kind of what that process looks like, just the bare bones of it? What does the casting process look like in those early stages?
Yeah, it's the process for Drag Race is definitely different than any other show that I work on. And it's because we're looking for those, you know, quadruple threats, quintuple threats. And, you know, the queens, as I'm sure Olivia knows, have to do so much on the show. And we need to see, you know, can they sing? Can they dance? Can they do choreography? You know, how's their makeup skill, the head to toe illusion, the whole thing. So we have to do these tapes so that we can kind of see all of it at once. So, you know, rather than the, you know, typical casting director contestant audition, you know, we do a big announcement, we, you know, we send out the instructions, and then we have to wait for the tapes to come in, and, you know, and obviously do outreach and make sure people are applying. And you know, every year the talent continues to absolutely amaze me. I mean, you know, we're always looking for those sort of, you know, surprising queens and, you know, new fresh faces and like, you know, really unique voices. And, you know, I'm floored every year by what comes in on this tape, like on the tapes. It's so much fun to cast. Like, I consider myself the luckiest person in the world to have the job casting Drag Race, you know, because I also get to cast it as a huge fan of the show, and to also be part of, you know, the magic that comes out of it, and like kind of the inspiration and the artistry that people see, and like these really amazing human vulnerable stories that all of the incredible queens share on the show that give hope to a lot of people who are watching it.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, I'm curious, aside from the audition tape, what other factors are at play? You look at someone like Olivia, whose incredible journey brought her to Drag Race just a year after doing drag. Are you looking at like social following? Are you looking at how many nights they have at the neighborhood bar? Like what other external factors are at play here?
It's the tape is everything, and the talent is everything. It's, you know, social media following does not matter. It doesn't matter if you have no social media or you have 50,000 followers. It doesn't factor into our casting decisions at all. We are looking for amazing, authentic voices, and we're looking for talent, and we're looking for queens that can be all around competitors, because I mean, the show is like every talent competition rolled into one. So it's really more about what they show us on the tape, and what they, you know, and how much of themselves that they really reveal, like how vulnerable they are and how open they are. Like, you know, a lot of the queens who do really well and whose tapes really get noticed, who really put themselves out there and kind of don't leave anything on the table. So it's about the tape and what they show us, and it's not about any of that other stuff. So, you know, you come in, you can be 1 year into drag and just be like, you know, this incredible polished queen like Olivia, who seems like she's been doing drag for 10 years. We were like, where did this girl come from?
Definitely.
Can I add to that? Can I add something to that?
Yes, please, Michelle.
It's also, I've heard over the years about what's not allowed on Drag Race. And I want to say rumors are rumors, and none of that is true. Everybody is welcome on RuPaul's Drag Race. You are as good as your audition. If you're just like anything else, if I audition for something in the theater and I'm not as good as the next person, that person gets on, then they won the audition. You are as good as your audition. Do not overproduce. Be authentic. Be yourself, because Ru sees through all the BS. Ru wants to see authenticity, and that's what the show is about. Yes, diversity. Yes, authenticity. Everybody is welcome. I've been at clubs over the years, and I'll text our senior VP of talent there and some others, and I'll say, oh, this girl needs to be on. And this is just at clubs. I'll go to Nashville, I'll perform wherever, and you pick the state. I've been there, and I have sent girls in and said, look at her. I don't know how much how long they've been doing it. I don't know how many followers they are, because I've never seen them or never met them. Don't listen to people that tell you, well, if you don't have a big following, if you're not rich, if you're not this, everyone is welcome. Your audition has to be good. That's it.
Yeah, it's all about putting your heart and soul in that tape, because it is everything.
And there are a lot of people who weigh in on the casting process ultimately. And RuPaul does view every single casting tape, and he pours over every detail of every submission. And in all the years that I've been part of this, what stands out is really the qualifying factors, the criteria: charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
That's it.
Well, thank you for illuminating that, of course. I am curious with Mandy and Michelle in particular, put your producer hats on for a moment. You get so many submissions each season for Drag Race. Are you, aside from the charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent, are you looking to kind of the cohesion of a series? Are you looking to how the personalities are going to come together for good TV? Are you holding people for future seasons? What kind of strategic mind goes into it?
Mandy, that's you.
Again, there's something really magical that happens in the room when the casting submissions begin to narrow, and it begins to, a narrow group begins to stand out in front of you, and it truly does come down to RuPaul and his feeling and his instincts. And yes, looking for queens who are from different parts of the country, who represent a different style of drag, who bring a different energy, a different voice, a different experience. And sure, it's all the colors of the drag rainbow, if you will, and certainly that is something that we look to build in an ensemble. But you got the talent, you got the chops, you ready, you cut through, and you show up, and that's really how it shakes out.
Fair enough. Olivia, what do you remember about your audition tape?
Oh, yeah, I completely, my audition tape. Oh, Mandy, I don't know why you're smiling.
That was great.
Yeah, I remember feeling like I had the most nerve in the world because I was like, I have been doing this for a year and I love drag so much, and I just want to show them how much I love drag and how much I love putting on lip gloss and heels and just doing my thing. So yeah, I definitely remember that, and I yeah, it was a really cool experience. You do it by yourself because you get all the materials together and you're just like, I'm just gonna do this and see what happens.
I was so happy to be able to watch your journey and to be able to judge you because you are just a ball of light. You are meant to do this and you're so
Oh,
good at what you do, baby.
thank you so much,
And that
Michelle.
was
Yeah.
and that was obvious on your casting tape. Just,
Yeah.
the talent undeniable, but what, as Galoka said, the authenticity that cuts through the yeah, and the casting tapes are in and out of drag. They're moments where you're showcasing your skills as a performer as well as your stories as a person. And speaking of Olivia specifically, that authenticity was there and cuts through, and you want to and need to know more about this person. And that's what I remember about your tape.
I
Oh,
remember your
so-
tape. Yeah, I remember being completely gobsmacked that you had been doing drag such a short amount of time because you really were so polished and you had this huge smile and like your love of the art of drag and like how much you really enjoyed doing it was like you could see in every single scene you could see it. That huge smile for sure. And then your incredible musicality. I remember at one point you just like belted out into song on the piano. And I'm like, whoa, hello.
So you were really firing on all cylinders, showing the triple threat, that for sure. That's what it
Wasn't
sounds
messing
like.
around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Olivia, to go back to your experience on the show, as this show has risen in popularity, as submissions are coming in season after season, there is kind of a heightened expectation for what competitors are bringing to the table, whether it be the triple threat prowess that you're doing at the piano or the runway looks that you're doing. I'm curious what pressure that put on you as a season 13 competitor to come in with all the right looks, with all the right skills. How are you feeling going up into it? And what advice do you have for others that are eventually going to be following in your footsteps?
That's a great question because I mean, as soon as you start the audition process or get further along and you feel it kind of inching towards it, you kind of search around, maybe the internet, maybe some articles, maybe things like this will become a resource for queens in the future to kind of look back to while they're creating their tapes. And I really feel like it is an important thing to separate yourself from everyone else and think about it as your own individualized journey because everyone gets on the show for a very different reason and everyone has their own journeys in life and in their artistry. So as long as you remember those key things while you're creating your audition tape, I really think it'll be effective because those elements that I kind of put together for my audition tape, I really feel like I packed them with me in my luggage to California and when I went there to film because it really just helped me continue to be authentically me. If you pack up your favorite wig, your favorite costume, you're always going to be you.
You bring
So
yours wherever you go, Olivia.
That's exactly what like the advice I would have given too, is be authentically you. And it's also, yeah, it's like when you make that tape and you're like, you're putting yourself out there. I mean, you've definitely got to give it your all. And, the only person you can be is yourself. So just, commit to that. You can't try to be someone else. I would say for people applying too, it's like, start thinking about your audition for next year now. Like how can you every time you get in drag, take photos, take a, prop your phone up and do like a turn and a runway walk. So you get like all this footage of you in drag, like videotape tons of performances and lip syncs. If you got downtime, play with different looks and kind of compile all of this great footage. So when the time comes to make a tape, like you've got all this stuff banked and you can just put it together and kind of focus on the challenges rather than doing everything from scratch.
Great idea.
No, that's great. That's great.
Don't wait till the very end of the deadline Don't wait till 3 minutes before the deadline. Get those tapes in early.
I'm sure you can tell. You can tell when it's been rushed till the end of the deadline. Absolutely. I did want to ask too, because the accessibility of drag has changed so much as a result, or at least largely in part as a result of this show. You have people coming to drag and the art of drag from all different avenues. You have the seasoned kind of bar performers, they're hosting nights at their local queer bars. You have the Instagram queens. You have people who have a musical performance background and then kind of did drag to find a different avenue of their performance career. There was a dialogue this year about that in particular. I don't know if you saw, but online there's this idea of weaponizing your BFA as a musical performer, which I thought was so funny. So what are everyone's thoughts about the right way, quote unquote, of coming to drag, if that exists at all?
I can start this conversation because I think that's ridiculous. I'm a musical theater major, BFA weaponizer, if you will. And for me, I don't think that exists because I don't like one type of drag. I like weird, freaky club kid drag. I like musical theater drag. I live for pageant drag. I like it all. Spooky drag, you name it, because I'm such a drag fanatic and before I'm a judge, I'm a huge drag fan, which is why I'm sitting in this position. I grew up around it. I was weaned off the cotton teats of drag queens. All of it is relevant. All of it matters. So my only suggestion to that, that's some Reddit crap that you're going to hear. And I don't buy into that. I don't think it's fair. I see all the threads. You don't need to be rich. What you do need to have is an aesthetic. What you do need to have is taste. What you do need to have is focus and a direction and an open mind. Because when you come here, you could be the fiercest, musical theater queen. And the challenge has nothing to do with that. And you aren't able to deliver that challenge. So you need to focus on the challenges that are at hand and do it the best that you know how to do. No matter what genre of drag that you do, I'm going to use the V word because that's where it belongs. Versatility is key on RuPaul's Drag Race. Key. If you do something so well and we are just eating out of your hands, which we will be, that's great. But I'm going personally to get bored of that because you can do it. It's like when you watch somebody do it so perfectly and it's amazing. And it's like, okay, all right. How many times do we need to go to that show unless they're going to do something else? So these queens push me to challenge myself and change every week and be different. So I'm going to push them to change up what they can do every week. They've already mastered something. Can they master something else? So I don't buy into that weaponizing anything. Be the best that you can be at everything that is thrown your way. And I'm not talking just on Drag Race. I'm talking about in life. You can't just go, down one avenue in life because you'll end up somewhere at a dead end. Oh my God, that was so deep.
Well, I don't know if you can say it any better than that. Is there anything that you other three would add just to that kind of dialogue that's happening?
I mean, I would say that it's like, it doesn't matter how you come to drag or how you find yourself, becoming a drag performer. What's really important too is that you create that persona and that you work on your craft and really do the work and develop yourself and know who you are. It's hard for us to get a feel for, who a person is if they haven't really figured out who their persona is, everything from, her voice, how she moves, how she'd answer a question, what her superpowers are. So I think it's really important to always be growing and developing yourself and really kind of, developing that persona and growing as an artist and performer.
And for God's sake, take a sewing lesson. I don't care if it's on YouTube. Just learn a basic, please.
You're really good with a hot glue gun.
Yeah.
Hot glue is great, but if you don't know how to put it together, just know how to put a garment together because you're going to have to make it, if not once, possibly twice or more.
Yeah. I feel like you can learn to do everything on YouTube now too. It's like you don't have to go anywhere to do it. Just watch everything on YouTube. Makeup, wigs, sewing, crafting, props, anything.
I understand that not everybody has a sewing machine in their house. I do understand that because they can be very pricey. And if you can't borrow one, or your mother doesn't have one, you could learn how to do it by hand. Just find a way to make it happen. So when that moment comes, and Olivia can back me up, when that moment comes, you will know what you have to do to spring into action to get it done in X amount of time and present it.
Mhm. Excellent, excellent. I mean, if we've heard it once, we've heard it 1,000 times. You want your queens to know how to sew, at least just a little bit.
Basic, just
Yeah.
basic. I don't ask for much.
Right. Well, as a final question for you guys then, thank you again for spending some time with me and Backstage today. You're 13 seasons in, you're expanding this franchise on the global market, of course. We're going into All-Star Season 6. For those of you who have been involved with this series from the very early days, I'd love to get you reflecting just on the most gratifying part of seeing the growth of this, of being involved with something that has helped move the needle in the way that Drag Race has. Mandy, let's start with you.
Well, yeah, it's every season, you know, one of the best parts of my job is making that call that Olivia mentions, where after the casting process has taken place and it's now time to call the 12, 14, however many queens it's going to be, and let them know that they've been cast, because I know that it is going to be a life changer for them. You know, it's a moment where what they've worked so hard to do and the dreams that they've set for themselves are really going to be catapulted into a different type of stratosphere, different types of opportunities for them to express themselves, to share their skills, their stories, their light with the world. And I think on our own scale, of course, the Drag Race has done that. You know, we were this little show on this little network with this little cult following, if you will, and I believe that despite the fact that we have now the drag is taking over the world, but despite the fact that it's bigger and bigger franchises, whatever, I think it's not because we have strayed from our roots. I think that what's most exciting is that we've kept true to our roots and to the sort of punk rock that drag is, the irreverence, the pushing of the envelope, and that message is being received and embraced by so many people who may not initially have been drawn to drag, that appeals on so many levels to so many different types of people, is what I feel most exciting and rewarding about being a part of this. Because I think the message of drag and of Drag Race is that of love and acceptance. And the fact that it's kicking on and lighting the world on fire is exciting to me. So that's my part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Galoga, you say that this casting process is kind of different from any of the other series that you work on. I imagine it's also a pretty special one. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's incredibly special. I mean, it's, you know, first, you know, although I miss that more personal connection, because the queens are so amazing and they are so dynamic and fun and creative and incredible. It's still like watching the tapes is like, it's like having your own personal drag performance. And we get to do that all day when they come in, and it's like, we're bouncing in our seats. Like, it's so exciting. But you know, like, one of the things that makes this like really, really gratifying is that the show has at its core this incredible message of self-love and celebrating what makes you different. And, you know, it's so important for people of any age to hear that. And, you know, I feel incredibly grateful every single year that I get to be part of making, you know, a little part of making that magic happen.
And I'm going to add on to that, if you don't
Yes,
mind.
please.
I think that, you know, kind of going on what Mandy was saying earlier, this show has always been made by queer people. You have RuPaul from the beginning, from the idea to manifesting it and making it happen and doing it in other countries and never kind of losing focus. Tom Campbell, Randy Barbado, Fenton Bailey, they are the heart of World of Wonder and the production company that lives this every day, all day. And it was made by queer people, for queer people, on a queer network. And we did it for the love of the art form. Drag to me has always been the most incredible art form. And I never understood why it was always a joke, you know, on TV going back to the years and years ago, and never the center of the stage. And whilst we have become bigger around the world, I don't think this show will ever be truly mainstream in the sense that Friends is truly mainstream, but that's okay with us because this is the only show that I know of that literally brings families together. It's gone from when I was performing in the club season 3 to performing at Wembley and arenas now, where we are today. It went from incredible, beautiful gay men just having the time of their life in a little queer bar to seeing parents with queer, trans, bi, whatever children and not being there and holding them in their arms and loving them no matter what. And being a mother of a gay child, it means the world to see a parent not throwing their kid out and saying, you can't love who you love and you can't be who you are. But instead, Michelle, we watched Drag Race together and now I understand who my child is. And even if they're not on the rainbow spectrum, even if they're just a kid who doesn't fit in, who's been bullied, who's never been accepted, they now can watch RuPaul's Drag Race and go, oh my God, I'm different. And different is cool. And I have people like me in this world. This is a show that brings families together. And that's what is at the heart of RuPaul's Drag Race. Love.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to see what's next in store for this incredible franchise. And Olivia, what's next for you? Congratulations again on such a great run on season 13. And you're kind of in the heat of it now, so it's a very exciting time. Michelle, Mandy, Goloka, Olivia, thank you so much for joining us today, and stay well out there.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Love our show.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.